Good morning, students. So in the last class, we were discussing about the properties of electrovalent or ionic compounds. And in that properties, we have studied about what is lattice enthalpy and what is hydration enthalpy. And we have also studied that if hydration enthalpy of a ionic crystal is more than its lattice enthalpy, then only that ionic crystal or ionic compound will get dissolved in water. Otherwise, not. So we can't say that each and every ionic compound will dissolve in water. No, it is not correct. So criteria is there related to hydration and lattice enthalpy. Now the next property we can say is that ionic compounds, we all know, either in their molten state or in their aqueous solution, they behave as electrolyte. They conduct electricity through them. Why? Because due to the presence of free ions. So ionic compounds, when they in aqueous solution, it gives sodium and potassium ions. Now this process is called dissociation. We know what is ionization. We can call it ionization also. That ionization of NaCl is taking place. But generally, in case of ionic compounds, the word ionization is replaced with dissociation. We will say NaCl is getting dissociated into ions, not ionization. Why? Because in NaCl or in any ionic compounds, ions were already present. Sodium ion and chloride ions were already there. Only they were not free. They were due to the electrostatic force of attraction, they were not free. Otherwise, ions were already available. And when we are adding water, then what is happening? That electrostatic force of attraction will take these ions. It is breaking and the ions are getting free. Otherwise, ions were available earlier also, before adding water. That is why here ionization word we don't use, we use dissociation. So dissociation or ionization, they both are same, but for ionic compounds, we use the word dissociation. So this is also one property of ionic compounds, that they can conduct electricity in a molten or in aqueous solution. Then one more property is there, that ionic compounds, they are non-directional. They don't show any geometry, like NaCl. NaCl has no geometry. How they can show geometry? Because they are having electrostatic force of attraction, which is totally non-directional. Electrostatic force of attraction is just an attraction force. So attraction force is uniformly distributed. It has no direction. In sodium ion, sodium is having a range of attraction force, like a magnet. Magnet, it has its magnetic field up to some limit, some range. In the same way, attraction forces, they don't have any direction. They show uniform attraction force around the ion. So that is why these ionic compounds, that is why they don't show any type of geometry in three-dimensional space. Ionic compounds, I am saying, like NaCl, one compound, one molecule. And that is why they can't show any type of isomerism also. They don't show any type of isomerism. And the last property is that ionic reactions are very fast. Within a fraction of a second, you will get the result of ionic reactions. Many ionic reactions you have done also and you have seen also. Whatever we used to do in salt analysis, sir is showing, I hope, salt analysis, isn't it? And in class 10th also little bit you have done. To find salt analysis means when salt is given to you and you are asked to find out the cation and anion. Like in class 10, you have performed, I think you have performed about Fe3 plus ion. Fe3 plus ion. When ammonium hydroxide is added, then you will get ferric hydroxide brown precipitate. You have studied also. In examination, you have written also. But use and throw process you all are following. So use and throw process, it will not work during studies. and generally in chemistry, all the things which you have studied, they all will come again and again. So salt analysis means one salt will be given to you. Suppose sodium chloride is given to you and you are asked to find out which cation and which anion is present. So by doing many chemical reactions, finally you will say that okay, sodium ion is present and chloride ion is present. So sir is also showing you salt analysis, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes. Nitration also you have seen? No. Salt analysis you have seen? Salt analysis you have seen. Who will tell that which salt analysis you have seen or which cation and anion detection you have seen? Who will tell? Which cation and anion detection you have seen? Very good. No answer. No one has the answer. Which cation and anion detection you have seen? Ammonium ion detection you have seen? Ammonium ion detection. Now I am going to call by name. Rashi Chaudhary. Rashi Chaudhary. Rashi Chaudhary, are you here or only you have just bluffing me? Rashi Chaudhary, if you're in front of your laptop or whatever, then you switch on your video. Rashi Chaudhary, otherwise I will remove you. Yes, Rashi. Yes, Rashi, you know which salt you have seen? Which salt analysis you have seen in the video? Don't know? You have seen the videos of chemistry practical?
Almost half of the video.
Akash? Akash Shukla is searching. Yes, Akash? You can tell any ion which you have seen in the video. Sir is sending.
Miss, ammonium we have seen, and rest all sir has said only ammonium will be given to you to test, rest all will not be given.
Okay, but many more you have seen. Or
No,
only ammonium?
only ammonium sir has shown, and he has said that if any other will not be given. It's that shows.
Ammonium ion you have seen.
Yes.
Okay. So now suppose your salt is ammonium chloride. Suppose sir has given you ammonium chloride. So this is a simple normal salt, no? In the normal salt, one cation and one anion is present. So here you see ammonium ion is present and chloride ion is present. So when you will add water, then ammonium ion and chloride ion, they will separate, dissociate. Then when you will perform the proper test for ammonium ion, finally you will get the result. When you will perform the proper test for chloride ion, then finally chloride ion you will get the result. Okay, so these are called ionic reactions, and these ionic reactions are very fast. Like suppose, I hope you have studied about chloride ion, that when AgNO3 is added for chloride ion detection, then white precipitate of AgCl is formed. In HCl, last year you have studied about HCl. You have studied about the preparation of hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, ammonia. In that hydrochloric acid, how to detect the presence of hydrochloric acid. There you have studied that on adding AgNO3, you will get white PPT of AgCl. The reaction is, suppose this is hydrochloric acid and you are adding AgNO3. Then simple reaction, AgCl plus HNO3. This AgCl will give you white PPT. The light has gone. So this AgCl will give you white PPT. The reaction is very simple reaction, double displacement. Only exchange of ions are taking place. Isn't it? Exchange of ions are taking place. So these are called ionic reactions. And at the moment you add AgNO3, immediately you will get white PPT. So that means these ionic reactions are very, very fast reactions. So this is also a property of ionic compounds, that they show very fast reaction within a fraction of second. So this we have studied about ionic reactions. Now students, from last 2-3 days, I am publishing videos also, small videos. Like day before yesterday, I have published about electron gain enthalpy. In that video, small videos I am publishing. In that video, in few places, by mistake, I have said ionization enthalpy. Actually, it is electron gain enthalpy. That was slip of tongue. That whole video was related to electron gain enthalpy. If I have said ionization enthalpy in some places, then that you consider it as electron gain enthalpy. Yesterday, I have published about electronegativity. Electronegativity and a little bit about diagonal relationship. So you go through that. Now, so these were the properties and properties of ionic compounds. So as ionic bonds are non-directional, ionic compounds, they don't show any type of geometry. That is why here only we will stop the study. We will stop about studying ionic compounds. Now next we will study about covalent bond or covalent compounds. So students, now we are going to study about covalent bond. You know the definition of covalent bond? The bond which is formed by the mutual sharing of electrons between two atoms. That two atoms, they may be of same element or they may be of different elements. That is only covalent bond, mutual sharing takes place. For example, Cl2. In Cl2, these examples are very it's easy example. You have studied in class 10. Formation of Cl2. In Cl2, chlorine and chlorine, they both are coming from the same element. That means their electronegativity difference is 0. So this is the criteria of formation of covalent bond. The electronegativity difference should be either 0 or very less. If electronegativity difference is very high, then electrovalent or ionic bond will form. I hope you all know these things. Yes or no? Like NaCl is an ionic compound. NaCl is an ionic compound, but why ionic bond is forming? Because sodium belongs to first group, which is a highly electropositive group, and Cl belongs to 17th group, which is a highly electronegative group. So one is very easily it can donate electron. Sodium is highly electropositive, and chlorine is highly electronegative. It can take electron. So if this is the situation, that very easily the transfer of electron can take place. Very easily one atom can give electron and one atom can take electron. That means the electronegativity difference between them is very large. So if there is a very large electronegativity difference, like between first group and 17th group, or between second group and 17th group. Okay, few more examples are also there, but these two combinations, they will always form electrovalent bond or ionic bond. Why? Because the electronegativity difference is very, very large between these two groups, because they are very far from each other. More the distance in the group, more possibility of ionic bond formation. And if electronegativity difference is less or 0, here it is 0 because same element we have taken, then definitely covalent bond will form, sharing of electron. In this case, they both are having same electronegativity. So who will give electron or who will take electron? They both are of same strength. So So mutual understanding is taking place and mutual sharing is taking place. So covalent bond formation is taking place. Now students, let me tell you, suppose you know that between Cl and Cl one single bond is formed. Covalent bonds are shown by, you know, this type of lines. So covalent bonds, they may be single bond, they may be double bond like the oxygen, they may be triple bond like in nitrogen. Isn't it? So, different type of covalent bonds are there. One covalent bond, it contains one pair of electrons. Always keep in mind. One bond means two electrons. One covalent bond. Now, if I ask you that in chlorine atom, one chlorine atom, how many lone pairs are there? So, in NH3 has three single bonds. It is not triple bond. Ammonia has NH, NH, NH. Like these three single bonds. We can't call it N triple bond H. That is wrong. So in chlorine, if I say that how many lone pairs are there? So if you want to calculate the lone pairs, then after bond formation, each chlorine will have 8 electrons, because that is why to complete its octet, it is doing the chemical bond formation. No. So after the bond formation, each chlorine atom is having 8 electrons. So let us count 8 electrons. So here it is 1, 2. These 2 electrons we have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In this way, lone pairs will be. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Total 8 electrons. It will contain total 8 electrons. You have to take these 2 electrons also. So first you will take 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this chlorine is having total 3 lone pairs. In the same way, for this chlorine also, we will take these 2 electrons because they are using these 2 electrons to complete their octet. That is why mutual sharing they have done. So these 2 electrons, we will take these 2 electrons for each and every chlorine. So for this chlorine also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each chlorine atom is having 3 lone pairs. Now in oxygen, if I ask you how many lone pairs, one bond contains 2 electrons, and total one oxygen should have 8 electrons after bond formation. So this is one bond, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over. That means this oxygen is having 2 lone pairs. And this for this oxygen also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here each oxygen is having 2 lone pairs. Get it? Now in nitrogen, it is having 3 covalent bonds. That means one bond means 2 electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each nitrogen is having only 1 lone pair. And the same you will get here also 1 lone pair. So calculating lone pair is also very important. Otherwise, how to show the sharing of electrons? I hope you know this. How to show the sharing of electrons for this normal molecules. You just send me the answer that whether you know how to show the mutual sharing of electrons in this normal molecules, because last year you have studied about formation of water, ammonia, methane. Okay. Now about this normal molecules, you know how to show the formation of covalent bond. Like one was asking about nitrogen. So you know that in nitrogen, this type of bond formation takes place in nitrogen. 3 single bonds. And how to calculate the number of lone pairs? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here nitrogen is having 1 lone pair. For methane also you have studied, water also you have studied. Now let us study about ions. Many compound ions are also present. Like few compound ions you have studied, hydronium ion you have studied. Hydronium ion which shows covalent plus coordinate bond. So hydronium ion you have studied, then ammonium ion also you have studied in the example of coordinate bond. So these ions are compound ions. Now let us see few more. For example, let us take this ion, carbonate ion. Now the element which is less in number and which is big in size and less electronegative, that element we will take as a central atom. Like here carbon we will take. Because carbon is bigger in size than oxygen, it is less electronegative than oxygen. And we will use Lewis dot structure. We will not make all the shells, only Lewis dot structure. So how many valence electrons carbon has? 4. Atomic number of carbon is 6. So 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the valence electrons of carbon. Now we have to accommodate 3 oxygen atoms. And here carbon needs 4 more electrons to complete its octet. But anyhow, we have to accommodate 3 oxygen atoms. And we know for oxygen, the configuration is 2 and 6. That means it needs 2 more electrons to complete its octet by mutual sharing. So one oxygen needs 2 more electrons to complete its octet. So let us take the first oxygen atom, that how it can complete its octet by mutual sharing of 2 electrons. Now here I am taking the first oxygen atom with 6 electrons, valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 2 electrons of carbon. So let us write it this way. So these 2 electrons of carbon, because these 6 electrons of oxygen. Now oxygen has completed its octet by mutual sharing of 2 pair of electrons. And what about carbon? This mutual sharing, so both are taking the 2 electrons. Now carbon is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electrons. So carbon's octet is not complete, but this oxygen's octet is over. Now 2 more oxygen atoms we have to accommodate. One oxygen atom requires 2 more electrons. So how it is possible? For carbon, only 2 electrons are present and only 2 electrons it needs to complete its octet. That means only one oxygen atom we can accommodate by mutual sharing of electrons, but we have to accommodate 2 oxygen atoms. We have to accommodate 2 oxygen atoms. So one oxygen atom we can show mutual sharing with 1 electron of carbon and 1 oxygen atom by 1 electron of carbon. So let us see what is happening. This is the second oxygen atom with 6 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here, in this way, now carbon is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 electrons. 1 more electron it needs and 1 more oxygen atom also we are having. So let us take the third oxygen atom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the carbon's octet is over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the octet of carbon is also over and octet of this oxygen is also over. But what about these 2 oxygens? Here you see how many electrons it is getting. It is getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this oxygen is having only 7 electrons. 1 more electron it requires. So no problem. Here 2 minus charge is given. That means 1 extra electron from somewhere it has taken. That is why 2 extra electrons. That is why 2 minus charge is there. So 2 electrons we can add. So let us add 1 electron in this oxygen and 1 electron in this oxygen. Now the octet of these two oxygens are also over. So these 2 electrons I have added because in this carbonate ion 2 minus charge is there. So this is actually the mutual sharing of carbonate ion. And what you are getting? You are getting that two electron pairs we have shared. So it is having double bond. And here we have shared one. So it is having single bond. And here also one. It is having single bond. So this is the structure we are getting. But don't forget to put the lone pairs if it is there. How many lone pairs in carbon you are getting? In carbon, how many lone pairs? Send the answer. In this carbon, how many lone pairs? One bond means 2 electrons. And there should be 8 electrons total. One bond means 2 electrons and there should be total 8 electrons. Yes, no lone pair. Because carbon already it has found 4 bonds. 4 into 2, 8 electrons. So already a set electron is over. So carbon has no lone pair. In this oxygen, how many lone pair? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In this oxygen, how many lone pair? Can the answer? Yes. One bond means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And in these two oxygen atoms, this one electrons we have added from outside because 2 minus charge was there. So here we will put minus sign in these two oxygen atoms. So here we have not seen any type of coordinate bond formation, isn't it? These all are pure covalent bond, only mutual sharing. But in few places, not few places, most of the cases, we have to use coordinate bond also. So many more examples will come in future that we will discuss by coordinate bond. But today we are not moving towards coordinate bond. Pure covalent bond we are concentrating. Now, covalent compounds. How here we have made the structure according to Lewis Kossel theory. Means by using the concept of octet rule. We are using the concept of octet rule here, isn't it? That carbon is following octet rule. Anyhow, it is acquiring 8 electrons. Oxygens are also trying to acquire 8 electrons. So we are following octet rule. And what octet rule says that we have already written. But there are many limitations of octet rule is there. What are the limitations of octet rule? First limitation is about hydrogen, that it cannot complete its octet, not only for hydrogen, for lithium. So these type of elements, they don't follow octet rule because they try to acquire the configuration of helium. They follow duplet. They form duplet. So this is also, you can say, is a violation of octet rule. And many compounds you will get where their octet is remaining incomplete. So this is the second limitation of octet rule. The second limitation of octet rule is existence of electron deficient. Electron octet is incomplete. Few examples you have to keep in mind because these examples will come again and again. Many examples you will get, but the most common example is PF3, aluminium chloride, boron, aluminium, they both belong to 13th group. Fluorine, they both belong to 17th group. Now let us see why we are calling it electron deficient compound. Now see boron, atomic number is 5. So configuration 2, 3. How many valence electrons? 3. And these are pure covalent compound. It is having 3 valence electrons. So let us see the formation of BF3 boron with 3 valence electrons. And the other element is fluorine. Fluorine with atomic number 9. Configuration is 2 and 7. So 7 valence electrons. Now boron needs 5 more electrons to complete its octet. And fluorine needs only 1 electron to complete its octet. So each fluorine will show mutual sharing of number electron only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now here you see the octet of fluorine is complete. So the next fluorine we can take another fluorine atom with 7 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now this fluorine's octet is also over in the same way for third fluorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This fluorine's octet is also completed. So fluorine they have completed their octet. But what about boron? Only one mutual sharing has taken place. Now see the condition of boron. As one mutual sharing has taken place, so boron is having only 6 electrons. Isn't it? Boron's octet is remaining incomplete. Boron is having only 6 electrons. That means BF3 is an electron deficient compound. And it will always try to accept electron from somewhere else. Like from ammonia. Just now we have seen the formation of ammonia. This is ammonia, NH3. How many lone pairs in ammonia? Hydrogen has one lone pair. So if ammonia reacts with BF3, then this boron will always try to accept this lone pair in this way. And here we are getting the coordinate bond formation. Okay, so ammonia is not electron deficient compound. Electron deficient compound is BF3, where boron is not in the position to complete its octet. The same will happen with aluminium chloride also. You try it afterwards, aluminium chloride in the same way. Aluminium also belongs to the same group, 13 group. Aluminium is atomic number 13, so it is having 2, 8, 3. So aluminium also is having 3 electrons, valence electrons. So the same condition aluminium chloride will also face. So these are the electron deficient compounds which shows violation of octet rule. And you will keep in mind the examples of electron deficient compounds because they behave as a very important type of reagents, like they are electrophiles, they behave as Lewis acids, like that. This is why boron cannot complete its octet. How it will complete its octet? One mutual sharing is taking place and it needs 5 electrons. It needs 5 electrons to complete its octet. That is the problem. And it can't form ionic bond also because it is not that much electropositive in nature. So that is why BF3 is electron deficient compound, but it exists as dimer. So that we will discuss afterwards. Only you just keep in mind that these few examples are of electron deficient compound. Now the third limitation is means where the central atom is having more than 8 electrons. That is also violating octet rule. Central atom has more than 8 electrons. Those compounds are called hypervalent compounds. Many such examples you will get. The most common example is PCl5. PCl5, where phosphorus belongs to nitrogen family. The atomic number of phosphorus is 15. 2, 8, 5. So 5 valence electron it has. That means it requires only 3 electrons more. And chlorine, it belongs to halogen family. Halogen family will always contain 7 valence electrons. So phosphorus with 5 valence electrons. Let us see phosphorus with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 valence electrons. It needs only 3 electrons more. But how to accommodate these 5 chlorine atoms? We have to accommodate it anyhow by any type of bond formation. It can't simply hang over there. So let us take one chlorine atom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Halogens always need one more electron to complete their octet because they have 7 valence electrons. Always halogens will need one more electron. So chlorine is completing its octet over one more chlorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This octet is over. Third chlorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This octet is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Complete fifth chlorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is also over. Each and every chlorine has completed its octet. But what about phosphorus is? One mutual sharing has taken place. So it is mutual sharing. That means for phosphorus, this is the position. Phosphorus, it's 5 own electrons and one electron mutually shared by 5 chlorine atoms. So 5 plus 5, 10 electrons. That means here the phosphorus is having 10 electrons instead of only 8. So this is a hypervalent compound. Instead of 8 electrons, phosphorus is having 10 electrons. In many such cases you will get. One case is SF6. SF6. Sulfur, the atomic number of sulfur is 16. So 8, 6. 6 valence electrons of sulfur and one mutual sharing by fluorine. That means 6. So 6 plus 6. 12 electrons here sulfur is having instead of 8. So these are the examples of hypervalent compounds. So this is also the violation of octet rule. And in many cases you will get, so this is the third violation you can see. Then formation of these type of molecules are also called odd electron molecules. Generally, if we see, then we will get total number of electrons, valence electrons will come, total number of electrons will come in even number. But in few cases, generally the oxides of nitrogen, their total number of electrons will come odd. For example, NO. Nitrogen, its atomic number is 7. The atomic number of oxygen is 8. So, you see, you get out the sum, you are getting 15. So the total number of electrons are coming odd. And total number of valence electrons will also come odd. In electrons, oxygen needs 2 more electrons. So how we can do that? So there is a problem. If we take 5 electrons of nitrogen and oxygen with 6 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here oxygen has completed its octet. But what about nitrogen? This is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 electron nitrogen is having. But oxygen has total 8 electrons. And if we want to show this by bond formation, so two electron pairs we have mutually shared, so 2 bonds we can show. So here nitrogen is having 2 bonds with oxygen, and how many electrons? 1, 2, 3. 3 electrons with nitrogen and 4 electrons with oxygen. This is one possibility. Where oxygen has completed its octet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here the octet of oxygen is complete. But what about nitrogen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nitrogen's octet is incomplete. Okay. So this can be the condition. Or one more condition is also possible. Where nitrogen is able to complete its octet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1 electron from oxygen it has taken. But in that case, for oxygen it will be a problem. Oxygen's 1 electron it is using to complete its octet. But now oxygen is having 1 less electron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 1 electron it has taken. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So either this or this. So they will transform themselves into each other. Okay, these molecules they will transform them into each other. For a moment, nitrogen will complete its octet, and for the next moment, oxygen will complete its octet. Like this, they will manage them between them. Okay, they will try to manage the electron to complete their octet. Otherwise, it is not possible in these cases that both the atoms at a time can complete their octet. I hope you all are getting. So this is the problem in case of odd electron molecules. This is odd electron. Nitrogen is having 3 electrons and their oxygen is having 3 electrons. Anyhow, they are managing to complete their octet by transferring the electrons. So this presence of odd electron molecule is also a problem. Means you can say it's the limitation of octet. Till the time is over, don't forget to see the every day. You just search the video. One small video. I will always publish. Okay. So electron gain enthalpy video of electronegativity you just see. Now today I will today or tomorrow I will publish the video related to a topic related to ionic compound that is called Born-Haber cycle. Born-Haber cycle. You just check it. Okay, students? How many of you have seen the video of electron gain enthalpy? Raise your hands. Okay. And many more because these 4 periods in a week is too less to complete the syllabus. Not only for this first semester syllabus, but the syllabus of the whole year. It is very hard to complete the syllabus by getting only 4 periods. So I have to publish a small videos because many examples, many things are there, many small topics are there tell you. Okay. So I hope you all are not getting any any problem in watching the videos. Okay, thank you.